Hey listeners, thank you for joining me on this ride of learning about recovery. Over the course of these episodes, we have heard from so many who live recovery on a daily basis and learned about the fortitude that it takes to carve a life moving forward from substance abuse. If you only know me from this podcast, you might be surprised to learn that I also produce a podcast for Jimmy McGill, the captain of recovery in Arkansas. The podcast is called From Prison to Purpose, and we wanted to share an episode with you here. You can find From Prison to Purpose on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and all the major podcast platforms. We hope you enjoy this episode and subscribe, rate, and share with someone that may benefit from having heard this podcast. Without further ado, here is an episode called Meth Gangs of Russellville.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jimmy McGill. You are watching and listening to From Prison to Purpose. I'm the host of the show. I'm the author of the book, From Prison to Purpose. I'm a returning citizen from incarceration and a person in long-term recovery. And today's guest is Jackie Willits. I'm excited about this. Jackie is somewhat of a firecracker in the recovery community. She doesn't do a lot of tongue biting, so she may piss you off in the episode, but that'll be okay. It'll give us good content. Jackie has been clean for 7 years, and she's been out of prison 7 years. And so without any further ado, Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're going to have to do a little better than that. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Is she loud enough? Okay, cool beans. So, Jackie, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. Are you excited?
I am nervous too.
You're nervous? It's literally just me, you, and Ty. We just finished eating Mexican food.
Still nervous.
Why?
There's a million people watching.
That'd be nice. That would be nice if a million people were watching. So now you've been clean 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did you use drugs for?
Altogether 8 years.
8 years. When did you start? How old were you?
20.
Was there like some contributing incidents that led up to making you think drug use was the solution?
Oh, yeah. Tons of things.
You want to talk about some of them?
Yeah. So I was sexually abused as a child.
Okay.
My dad was a police officer, or he worked for the jail in Murfreesboro, Arkansas. And his brother is who hurt me when I was a child. And he did that from the time I was 5 till I was 8.
Yeah, that's some serious trauma.
Yeah.
Have you been to like therapy over that?
Oh, I've been in therapy half my life.
Okay. Okay, so you're comfortable talking about all these things.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, wow, I don't really know where to go from there.
Well, I can tell you, I was also sexually assaulted when I was in high school.
Was that like by a teacher or a student?
That was by 3 students
Okay.
who were older than me. I was in 7th grade and they were seniors in high school. And there was like a big court thing and I had to go through that. And Murfreesboro is like a super small town.
So everybody was in your business.
Oh, everybody knew me anyway because of my dad.
Because he's a cop.
Right.
So what happened to the students who mistreated you?
They basically got slapped on the wrist. I mean, nothing was really done.
Wow. And that was with your dad being a cop.
Well, I think my dad kind of swept it under the rug. I mean, I don't think that I really got any type of justice or anything from his brother doing it to when when it happened to me in high school. I think that my dad wanted to save face.
Wow.
More than.
So there's a pattern of him just sweeping things under the rug. I mean, what do you think that did to you emotionally and mentally that, because as a dad, like if my kids come to me and tell me that something like that happened, like not only am I going to come unglued, I'm going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Like I'm going to use my platform to publicly draw attention to you. Like that's not okay. It's never okay to sexually mistreat someone. What did that do to you?
It gave me a false sense of love. Like I believed that whenever you love somebody, sexual things was how you showed that love. And so all my life I've I've like sucked out those kind of people who I always dated older men because that was what I was used to. I mean, I didn't start dating a younger guy until I met Sean, and he's just a year older than me. Otherwise, there's 8+ years. I mean, I was with a guy that was 18 years older than me.
Yeah. Man.
And it, gave me like some abandonment issues because like my mom was in prison, so she couldn't do anything. And my dad pretty much kept me and my brother from her.
Wow. So that's another pretty wild dynamic. Your dad's a cop and your mom's in prison.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually two very unlikely. How does that happen?
Well, my dad filed charges on my mom because my mom wrote hot checks in his name.
But he wouldn't persecute someone who sexually assaulted you.
Right. And my uncle lived with us for a long time. Even, I think he moved out when I was like 10.
Do you think he just didn't believe you?
Yeah, I don't think any of my family on my dad's side believed me.
Because it was the uncle, the brother of your dad.
Right. I don't know. I really don't think anybody believed me about anything. I mean, I was just kind of fighting for myself as a young child. I mean, my dad showed us tough love. I mean, he was not a very nice guy, and not very loving. So,
do you think it's like that for a lot of women? Do you think that they are scared to put a name and a face on their attackers because they're afraid people won't believe them like it was with you?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, a lot of people blame women because women are supposed to be promiscuous. I mean, that's what they called me. They said I was promiscuous, and I basically asked for it.
Damn.
But I didn't know anything different. I was 5 years old when it started happening to me. So that's if that's all I know, then that's how I'm going to act. I didn't know what promiscuous meant when I was a child.
Yeah. Yeah. So you think that's what led into your drug use?
Yeah, I think that. And I didn't start doing drugs till I met my ex-husband. And I was with him while he was a recruiter of the National Guard. And he had been to war. And that in return, his PTSD affected me because, he was super angry and we just didn't get along. I got pregnant like shortly after we met, and he wanted to get married because that's what he thought he needed to do to provide for him and his child and me. And so we got married, and obviously that fell apart pretty quickly. I started doing drugs with him and my stepdad after my daughter was born.
So when you say started doing drugs, like what drug did you start with?
Meth. I started with meth.
So how did that happen? Like you just got curious and decided you wanted to try it with them?
No, I found an 8-ball of meth in my linen cabinet and flushed it, and my ex-husband
snapped.
Yeah, and I didn't understand why. So I called my mom and I was like, "Hey, I found this in the bathroom. What is this?" And she was like, "It's probably meth." And so I flushed it, and he went crazy.
Yeah, aped out on you.
Mm-hmm. And I was pregnant during that time, so I wasn't doing any drugs, and I really didn't know what it was until I found it. I had never seen it before until then. And then after I had my daughter, I got pregnant shortly after her, like 11 months after she was born. I got pregnant again, and I lost that baby at 32 weeks. And that was really when I started using. He was like smoking meth out of a light bulb, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll try it.
So was he, by this time he's using in front of you, you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But previous to this, he wasn't?
Mm-mm. I mean, he was using, but behind my back.
Yeah, so you didn't know that he was using it, right? So from that initial time that you used, what was that like? What was that first drug use like?
I was looking for something to fill a void, and that felt the void.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to feel loved and wanted, and, meth made me feel loved and wanted.
Why do you think that is?
I don't really know. I couldn't find out anything else, and I found it in that, so I just latched onto it.
Very first drug use, like all of a sudden, this is what I've been missing my whole life.
Almost immediately.
I don't need, the second you hit that meth, you didn't need anyone to believe you. Right. It didn't matter that you had been abandoned. It didn't matter that the person that had been designated to protect you didn't protect you.
Right.
Because that dope made you feel all that better. Mm-hmm. I can relate to that. I heard a speaker recently say that he grew up poor, and so he couldn't afford Adidas, right? And so his Adidas always had like 9 stripes on them, and he was cross-eyed. And so he went to talk to this girl, and she said, look, I'm never going to date you because you cross-eyed. And so he said the second he got high for the first time, it was like magic. His Adidas automatically had 3 stripes on them. His eyes automatically uncrossed. And he had all the things that had ever been missing. He had found them in that one second that he used drugs.
Yeah, and I wanted more after that.
Did you get more?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I escalated my drug use from meth to pills to heroin to fentanyl.
Dang, you did all that, Jackie?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. I thought you just liked meth.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I've overdosed 3 times.
Wow.
Last time I overdosed, they told my mom I'd never walk out of the hospital.
That's a bad overdose. That's tubes down your neck and all the things.
I had 5 fentanyl patches on me.
When you overdosed?
Mm-hmm.
You're lucky to be sitting here, Jackie.
Mm-hmm. But I was trying to do that.
So how did you get all the drugs that you ended up doing?
Well, I sold meth and traded, or I had money because there was always meth around. I'm from Russellville.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people do a lot of crimes to get dope. I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all I did. I would hang around with these people that I met that were part of this gang, and we all hung together, and I learned quickly that selling meth could get you whatever you wanted. And I was like, I didn't have a home because my ex-husband kicked me out, so I was just bopping from here to there. But as long as I had something in my pocket, I always had a place to stay. So
if you were in Russellville hanging out with a gang, white supremacist gang?
Mm-hmm.
Really? I don't see that in you, Jackie. So far, I've had some skinheads on the show. I've had some gangster disciples on the show. We hear a lot of gang-related stories, and so it's hard for me. But when I look at you, I see the wife of Sean Willits, the mom. I see the recovery person. I don't see Jackie affiliated to white supremacy gangs.
I mean, I just dated the guys because they were the plug. You know what I mean?
They had the dope.
Yeah.
Okay. So were they like active?
Mm-hmm.
They were like doing bad stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but there was a huge indictment that was handed down, and that was during that time.
Yeah, we just talked about that indictment a while ago on the show.
Yeah, there was a huge indictment, and I was hanging around with some of the people that were indicted. My friend, one of my really good friends, she's in the feds right now because of that.
Who's that?
Her name's April.
Okay. So I know Valerie Baker, and she got indicted on that same indictment. She's in federal prison.
April got 17 and a half years, I think.
Yeah, they were kidnapping people. They were kidnapping them and torturing them. And so did you ever witness any of that type stuff?
I wasn't around, I wasn't hanging around those specific people at the end because I went to prison. I mean, I got in trouble and I was in jail for when all that stuff happened. So
yeah.
But I saw it on the TV while I was in prison.
What'd you think when you saw your boyfriend and all them on the TV?
Well, I just was waiting for him to come get me for a while.
Thought yeah, no doubt. I would have been waiting on that indictment too.
I mean, I waited, and I told my corrections counselor in ACC in Fayetteville, I was like, they'll be coming for me any day.
Yeah, and they never did.
Thank God. I was a little fish in a big pond.
Yeah, that alone should have been enough for you to find recovery.
Yeah, I never went without a drug for 8 years. So I didn't know what it was like, to like go without and be, because I eventually got to heroin, and, you have a physical reaction when you don't have that drug or opiates, any opiate. And I never had to go without. So I didn't know what withdrawal was until I went to jail. And anytime I went to jail before that, I brought stuff in with me.
So did you withdraw in jail?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
Like I was going to die.
Can you tell me about it?
Yeah. So, I was just throwing up, diarrhea, cold sweat. And they didn't do anything for you. They'd be like, I'll give you some Tylenol or ibuprofen, but that wouldn't help.
So we had another guy on here, Kai Fung, whose episode was just previously released last week, and he talked about detoxing in jail.
It's the worst.
And yeah, he was talking about using the bathroom on himself, throwing up, having the cold shakes, and he's like, and when you're in jail, like you're just a number to the guards. Mm-hmm. They don't give two craps about you. So he literally didn't stand a snowball's chance in a microwave, of getting any kind of care.
Yeah, I didn't know what Suboxone was at the time. I had no idea that there was a medicine out there that could help you. And there's mixed review. I believe, that it could be detrimental to you, or if it could work for you. I've seen it work for people. I have a very addictive personality, so I would have abused this. I would have abused it.
Yeah.
So
what'd you do to go to prison?
So I got caught with my friend with residue in a baggie, and that got me on probation. And then I violated probation.
What'd you violate probation with?
I was supposed to go to I checked in one time and absconded, so that was automatic violation. So
you just said, F it, I ain't going to see my PO.
I went one time, and my PO was someone that I knew in my childhood, and I looked when she knew me, I was just a little kid, so when she saw me then, I looked a lot different. I looked whacked out and, bad, and she just looked at me with these eyes that just made me feel so low. So I was like, man, I can't go back for her to be my probation officer.
Yeah, she got you feeling some type of way.
Right.
So when you get arrested for absconding and they send you to prison, how long do you stay in prison?
Well, they didn't send me to prison. They were going to send me to prison for 120 days, but it was close to my birthday that I had to go to court. And I just walked out the back. I went to the bathroom and I walked out the back of the courthouse and kind of said F it and left. And so I got a FTA, which is a felony FTA. So that's another felony on your record. And once they caught me, the feds kicked in the door of the trailer house that I was staying in looking for a guy who was MIA from the military. And I was the only one that had an absconding warrant, so I went to jail and had a $250,000 bond.
That's crazy. So what was you expecting when you went to prison that first day?
I don't know. I was terrified. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
All these people are trying to tell you what to do. They got me in this cold ass shower with lice stuff in my hair that I can't wash out.
Well, yeah.
They got me in this like big, huge, oversized t-shirt sitting there writing down all my tattoos. And it was terrifying and very intimidating.
Yeah. And so what was that first day like after you get through there and you get around the other women?
I have women friends now. I've allowed myself to do that. But during that time, I didn't hang out with women too much. I mostly hung around guys. And so when I got there, it was kind of a culture shock that there were 130 women around me all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I cried like the first and second night I was there, like, God, please get me out of here.
Yeah. So is it like the men's prison? Like in the men's prison, they're fighting, they're hustling, there's a lot of homosexual activity, there's a lot of tattooing, there's a lot of contraband being smuggled in. Like, what's the women's prison like?
Women's prison is, it can be nasty. Women can be real nasty when they're locked up. But I went to ACC and, you got to wear a yellow uniform, and everything was nice, but there are relationships that happen in there, women with women. Sometimes women who are married on the outside, they find a girlfriend in there and they call it gay for the stay,
Okay. Okay. Hey, just while I'm here, I'm just passing through.
Right.
I'm gay for the stay. That's funny. Okay. So, did you see a lot of that?
I didn't see any sexual activity. I mean, it was a no-touch facility, so like if you got caught touching, then
how did they have girlfriends if you couldn't touch?
I mean, they touched each other. There was places where cameras weren't, like in the kitchen or in some corners of the rec yard. It happened.
Yeah,
but nothing like you would see at like ADC or a men's prison. I mean, obviously PREA is a big thing in there and they talk about it a lot, but they go, all you can really do at ACC is hold hands, maybe get in the corner of the kitchen and maybe steal a kiss or something like that. But
yeah. So what, did you see any drug use in there?
Mm-mm. No, the only drug use that I saw really was when I was in county jail. I mean,
okay. So ACC is a little bit different than prison. Boy, my mic kicked on then. I can hear myself good. That scared me. Explain what ACC is versus ADC.
Okay, so ACC is what they call a therapeutic community. I thought it was a cult when I first got there because I got there on a Friday, which was like confrontation circle, and all these women are in a huge circle in this one room, and they're calling their name to go down in the middle of the floor, and they're having a conversation about what they did to piss this person off or whatever. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But I will say, if you go to ADC, you're doing what, 2.5 months, 3 months on a year?
2 months on a year, unless you get a class Y.
And, I would have turned around in there. Like I would have went there and turned around and got out and went right back to Russellville and would still be using or dead today if I wouldn't have went to ACC.
So you got clean while you were locked up. Mm-hmm. Never looked back.
Never looked back.
So leading up to your prison sentence, you've experienced sexual misconduct twice. Both times it's been swept under the rug, once by a family member. You're surrounded yourself with a white supremacy gang, that's surrounding you with beliefs and ideology that you don't necessarily have those same viewpoints. And now you're in prison and all of a sudden you get sober. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when you come home, where do you go from there?
So I went to a transitional home in Fayetteville called Magdalene Serenity House. I was one of the first group of girls to go through there. It's a 2-year program, or was a 2-year program. And they provided everything for me. I mean, they got me contacts. They helped me get insurance. They helped me get food stamps. I mean, they helped me do a lot of stuff, and I stayed there for 1.5 years. Then I moved out to live with a boyfriend after that. But I didn't go. It was kind of like a God thing, really, because I submitted my parole plan to go back to my mom's, and they denied it.
Okay. So what has been the biggest challenge that you faced re-entering society?
I guess I didn't come back to the Russellville area or anything like that for 1 year after I was released because I was scared to come back there.
Scared because you might return to drug use, or because people that you were running around with? Well,
most of the people I was running around with were locked up.
Yeah, they got a hell of an indictment, so they're gone.
And some of them are on home confinement. Some of them, they sent some to treatment. But when I came home, there was nobody that I used to hang out with. And I was just scared that if I ran into somebody by chance, that it would be hard for me to say no.
Yeah.
I didn't see my kids for 4 years before I went to prison because I gave them up to use drugs. And my ex-husband stepped in and, was a good dad and took care of them and made sure he did all the things that I should have been doing, which I'm grateful for. I mean, I was pissed off at him at the time because I couldn't see my kids, but I shouldn't have been around my kids. I mean, I was that bad off.
What's your relationship like now with your kids?
I can get them anytime I want. I'm in their life. I mean, after a year after I got out of prison, I sent my ex-husband a message and I was like, hey, I've been clean for 2 years. I want to be in my kids' life. And slowly he let me back into their life.
He made you earn it.
Yeah. He wanted to see if I was serious. I mean, obviously I would want to do that too.
So how many kids you got?
I got 2.
How old are they?
14 and 10.
14-year-old, a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Are you getting any of your past back through her?
Oh, she's her mama made over.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing, but sometimes she's got a
attitude. I wonder where she gets it.
She definitely gets that from me.
Yeah. Do you ever think it's cute?
I look at her sometimes and I'm like, man, I'm paying for my raisin.
That's funny. Is there anything when you were coming home from prison that you think the prison system could have done to make reentry easier on you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like ACC did their best to set me up for success. I mean, they took me to get my driver's license back. And they paid the reinstatement fee, which...
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really ever hear stuff like that.
They did. And I got my Social Security card sent, and they put all this stuff in a folder for me when I was leaving. And so I had that so I could be successful in getting a job.
I wonder why they don't do that in prison, man.
I don't know. I mean, I think my life would have took a total different trajectory if I would have went to ADC rather than ACC.
Yeah, you'd have came home with face tattoos and everything. You was wilding out.
Yeah, I probably would still be high or dead.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you're not. I'm glad you're clean and that you're here.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't trade the life that I have now for one day of that ever again.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about the life you have today?
Well, I mean, have found, like I said, I've allowed myself to have woman friends.
Okay.
I needed that in my life for a long time. And I didn't realize it until I started to kind of let my guard down because I don't trust people. It's hard for me to just automatically be someone's friend. I'm testing you every step of the way.
Well, you've been through a lot.
And so I have allowed myself to let my guard down and let people into my life who obviously love and care about me. And, I'm grateful that I allowed myself to do that. And I only did that through therapy. Yeah.
I see a therapist all the time.
Because I was so closed off. When I got out of prison, I was so still closed off that I didn't want friends. I couldn't, it was hard for me to evaluate whether this person was really trying to help me or what their motives were. And I was constantly questioning what people's motives were. And it was so exhausting. And I was, getting burnt out on it. So I just rather not have anybody around me. But I'm not like that anymore.
That's good. It's good. Did you encounter any stupid policies or rules in prison that you think were just ridiculous?
Yeah, so I am a part of the Women's Justice Health Alliance.
What is that?
It is a community advisory board that is built up of people who have experienced prison incarceration and people who, I'll explain how I got into it. So how I got into it was I did this research study with UAMS's HEALS lab. And basically the research study was about, like, did you get adequate health care while you were locked up? Which, no, you don't. Even at ACC, the healthcare was garbage.
Crappy, yeah.
And what can we do better to help fix, the brokenness in the system for healthcare or just the treatment of people? I mean, I don't believe that male COs need to be looking at girls in the shower at a women's prison.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
All the time?
Yeah.
Like shower naked or?
Yeah, like shower naked. Like, when they come in for count, you get one in the shower. They're still coming and looking over the shower ledge.
You ever see any of them staring a little bit too long?
Yes and no. I mean, even some of the women there do that.
Yeah, it's 2024. Yeah.
And during the time I was there was like a little scandal with the girl and a CO.
Mm-hmm.
The CO got fired and the girl got sent to ADC. And
okay.
That was the major thing that happened while I was there, was that controversy.
So how hard was it for you to find a job after prison?
I found a job quickly because I went to work for a treatment center in Bentonville called Decision Point at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was owned by Preferred Family Health. And so I worked for their SWS program, and
what is that?
Specialized Women's Services. I worked with women and their children.
Okay.
They were allowed to bring their kids to treatment with them.
So what did you do for Decision Point? Is that what it was? Decision Point?
So I was basically like a staff support. So I worked the night shift, 8 to 8, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And basically I was there just that night to oversee if any of the residents needed anything, if they got up in the middle of the night, which usually they didn't. And I would be there in the morning to like get them ready and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I did that for, I guess, about a year. And then they committed Medicaid fraud. And
the whole treatment center did, right?
Yes. So there was a Medicaid fraud and they shut down that part of the DHS, ripped their funding. And so we had to find new jobs, which I went to work for what's now called Arisa Health. It was called Ozark Guidance back when I worked there.
What did you do there?
I was a peer support specialist. That's where I learned about peer support, and they were the ones that sent me to the training in Jonesboro in 2018.
Mm. So peer is a hot topic right now in Arkansas. It's a hot topic across the country, but my previous job, I was the director of peer services, and it seems like peer recovery now versus what it was when I was doing it are two very astronomically different places.
Yeah, I believe that. And I've seen it. I don't work as a peer anymore. I worked for Goodwill's reentry program. But peer support has definitely changed from when I started, when it was first happening.
Yeah. For the better or worse?
For the worse.
You think? What do you think the biggest challenges are with it right now?
I just think there is a lot of things that are going on that people aren't being held accountable for things.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think without having a strong ethical foundation and a place for people to have their feet held to the fire, then the powers that be will lose faith in us as peer workers. And that's the job that I have now with NPRA, the National Peer Recovery Alliance, is like, that's my favorite thing about it is it's an organization that's not scared to face the truth, right? Like, they didn't put a muzzle on me. They didn't, like, when I worked for Arkansas, there were certain things I couldn't say. Like, I couldn't say when something was ridiculously stupid. And like the things that are concerning to me, and I'm not going to drop any names of no organizations or individuals' names in a slanderous way because I don't want to be sued. But anytime you have a peer recovery worker being arrested for dope stuff and then the next day providing trainings, that's crazy. Like, and then the peer community is just on like, shut up. You know, they don't want to speak up, and silence can't really, like, sooner or later, if you're not going to stand up for your workforce and believe that what you're doing is important, why the hell would anybody else in the society?
Right.
You know what I mean? And in what world are we living in, Jackie, where it's okay for me to get a dope charge and then bond out and the next day be providing services in the field of recovery and addiction? What the hell sense does that make?
It doesn't make any sense. It goes against everything that it was set up to be.
And
every bylaw, everything that, that's so many different ethics violations in one thing. And, you know, if people aren't held accountable, then we have got to narrow down. Like, I understand there's many pathways to recovery, and everyone's free to find their way to recovery any way they want to. And I believe that.
Yeah, me too.
But there are some silly things that have been said that don't make sense to me, like moderational use.
Yeah, that's wild.
As a pathway. I don't believe that. And I don't believe that's a pathway. I believe you're still in your addiction if you're still shooting dope in moderation.
Absolutely. So here's the thing on that, right? Do we agree that addiction is an incurable, fatal, and progressive disease?
Right.
So if something is incurable and it's progressive, that means it gets worse as you go. Mm-hmm. And to me, addiction ends in three ways. You either get clean and find a new way to live, or you go crazy and you go to prison, or you die. Right? Like, that's it. Institutions, insanity, death, or you find recovery. And so if you're giving someone a drug, there's no safe use, right? Like, it's going to end in insanity or incarceration. You're actually prolonging it and enabling it at that point. And, you know, but to me, that's not harm reduction.
It's not
harm reduction to me is wound bandaging. Harm reduction is HIV treatment. Harm reduction is alcohol pads to clean your scar tissue with. It is Narcan. It is safe sex. It is prevention, right? Like, that's what it is to me. It's not, okay, hey, come over here and use my car to do a shot of dope in. You know, that's not cool, man. Yeah. Like, I am a person in recovery from a lifelong illness of addiction. And if you allow me the chance to my own devices, I will kill myself through my drug use.
Oh yeah, me too. I've tried. I've done it almost.
Yeah. It just seems like if we don't start standing for something as a workforce, then our workforce that we built in Arkansas is going to crumble.
I think it started to crumble already.
Me too. That was one of the main reasons I took the job at MPRA, because when Arkansas screws this up, I need to be in a position to where I can pick that torch up and be louder than a state.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that there are people that are trying their best to keep it with what it was.
Yeah.
But if you just let any and old everybody in, then it crumbles, because people won't speak up or say how they feel. Like me, I don't care who gets mad at me. I'm going to say how I feel. I feel like the peer support is crumbling. I believe that some of it is not some people's fault and some of it is some people's fault. You know, like you said, I don't believe that we should be allowing peer workers to catch charges and work as a peer still. I believe that is a terrible, what are you showing people?
Yeah.
That makes me look bad. That tarnishes me. There's been...
Yeah, if you're a peer, it definitely does, right? Like, it's one for all and all for one.
Right. Know? And that happened a long time ago with another individual who tarnished it, who was the face of it all for a little while. And, that made me look bad. I don't like for other people to... If I want to look bad, I want to make me look bad. I don't want other people making me look bad.
Okay. All right then. So what does life look like for Jackie? It's not looking bad anymore, is it?
No, I mean, I just got married in September. I found a guy who chooses to love me every day.
Did you pay him?
No.
He loves you because he loves you?
He loves me because he loves me. I mean, he asked me to marry him in front of 500 people.
I was there. I was at the State Peer Recovery Conference. I helped plan it.
And it was kind of
the proposal.
It was kind of cringy, but
I didn't think it was cringe.
I told him, I was like,
He got called on stage and was given an award, the Jimmy McGill Award at that, which is ironically the highest award you can get for peer support, which is very flattering. But when he received that award, he got down on his knees, you guys, and called Jackie up on stage in the middle of his award and proposed to her and said he would not be who he is to receive that award if it wasn't for you. Mm-hmm. That's not cringe.
It was a little cringe.
What? I must be old.
I mean, I guess I'm old. I told him originally I didn't want him to do that in front of a lot of people.
That's the main reason we did it.
I know. And that's why it's so cringe. It's like, I told you not to do that. I was shaking. I was so embarrassed.
Why?
I mean, I don't think the word I don't think I was embarrassed. I was just shocked, first of all. And I didn't think he would do it there. And then I felt like I didn't want to take away from the recovery conference.
Oh, you were worried about how people perceived it. Right. They'll be all right.
Well, and then I was just like, well, who gives a shit?
Yeah, not us.
That was my moment. So.
That's your moment. What's that Eminem song? You gotta lose it. You want it. You better never get up on it. I can't sing it. I'm tone deaf too, so now I've lost the rhythm.
The funny thing about recovery is I don't have to use anymore.
Ever. That's not funny. That's awesome.
I don't ever have to pick up another drug in my whole life. Some serious life events have happened to me in sobriety that I could have easily used as an excuse.
Like what?
Like my brother overdosing. I was at a peer recovery training when that happened. And my dad called me that morning and said my brother was dead. And I just couldn't comprehend that. Because that was his first time to ever use heroin and it killed him. And I felt like I had survivor's guilt, which is a real thing.
Yeah.
Because I'd almost died 3 times and somehow a miracle was performed. And so I felt like it should have been me. Some of my family told me it should have been me. But my living amends to him is to stay sober and help others struggling. And I made that living amends when we put him in the ground.
It's powerful.
But the last thing I said to him was horrible.
What was the last thing you said to your brother before he overdosed?
Go kill yourself.
Jackie.
I know. I was a shitty individual. I'm not here trying to glorify how...
I mean, what made you say that to him?
I just didn't talk for him for 8 years. Him and my dad fought constantly, and my dad would just tell me that, my brother was fighting with him all the time.
The same dad who swept you getting raped under the rug.
Right.
So we're going to listen to him.
Well, my brother was autistic. He had Asperger's, which is a high-functioning form of autism. And I didn't know who to believe. So I'm listening to my dad bitch in my ear about him, and then I'm listening to my brother do it, and I got tired of hearing about it. If y'all don't want to live together, then separate. But I'm not going to have y'all beating on each other and the cops getting called. And so my brother pissed me off because I can't really remember why, but that's the last thing that I said to him. And then next thing I know, 8 years later, my dad's calling and saying, hey, your brother is dead. I found him dead this morning.
Dang. How does that make you feel now? looking back?
Well, I've dealt with it now. I still have survivor's guilt. I got in touch with Stacey James, and she got me in touch with some other surviving siblings who have been through the same thing I have, losing a sibling to overdose. And so I have those people, that network of people to reach out to if I need to. In which I talk to one of the ladies on occasion, all the time. And I wouldn't have known that was there unless I wouldn't have, reached out to Stacey. And she put me in contact. And so now whenever I go to the overdose awareness walk, like I wear my brother,
It's awesome. It's awesome that you're remembering him like that.
Yeah, because I don't want to remember him the way I seen him the last. Laying in a box with an X on his chest from an autopsy. I don't want to remember him like that. So I remember him. I got him put on the banners.
The Can You See Me Now banners?
Mm-hmm. So he's on banner 31, I think, is what it is. Yeah, 31.
Next time we're at the overdose walk, you can show me his picture.
Yeah.
Have you buried a lot of friends who've overdosed from heroin and fentanyl and opioids?
Yeah. My friend Terry died 2 years ago. They didn't find her for 3 days after she had overdosed in her apartment. Another person that I used to hang out with, he died several years ago of a fentanyl overdose. You couldn't pay me any amount of money to do the drugs that are on the street today. These people have got it bad. All this fentanyl, it's just dropping people like flies.
It's their drug of choice too, man. Like, I've got guys in my recovery house right now that their drug of choice is fentanyl. It's not meth. It's not coke. It's not pills. It's fitty.
Right.
And I'm like, why in the hell would you want to do a drug that most likely is going to kill you the second you do it?
That's, fentanyl was a thing when I was using, but it wasn't like a powder. It was the patches, and it was monitorized. Like I said, I had to put 5 on me to even feel any effects, but I almost died.
Well, that's not the fentanyl they've got today. It's pure powder.
Yeah, I've never done that, and I pray to God I never have to do that again.
Yeah. And I don't, we know where it's coming from, you know what I mean? And I don't understand. Like, I recently heard and read that it is the number one cause of death for Americans in a very specific age group, like 18 to 32. It's like that used to be heart disease. That used, and if China or Mexico or whoever's sending it over here, I hate to say this, but I don't know why we don't just bomb the hell out of wherever's sending it. Like, our kids are dying, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if a factory is sending fentanyl to America, it is what it is, Jackie. Fentanyl's poison, man.
Mm-hmm.
Fentanyl is poison. And thank God my son goes to a private school because he's less likely to see it there because his teachers are monks. You know what I mean? So thank God for that, because I don't know. As a mom, I don't know how you're not terrified your 14-year-old's not going to end up doing it.
Oh, I am terrified. I'm terrified every day. But I'm honest with her.
Yeah.
I talked to her about this.
Yeah.
I talked to my 10-year-old son about it.
Yeah, we did Carter too. Like, and Katie for that matter. Like, I talked to all of my kids specifically about drugs. Like, okay, it's going to make you feel great if it doesn't kill you, and you're going to want to do it all the time. And the problem is you're not going to be able to stop. Mm-hmm. One of the hugest problems that I can look back on is everybody told me drugs was going to suck, that it was going to be this miserable experience, that I was going to hate life. And that was the exact opposite. I'm like you. Since I put that dope in me, oh my God, I've been missing this. You lying shits. Mm-hmm. Why did you lie to us? And so from that point on, I didn't even trust adults.
Right.
because now I found this magical place with drug use. And so I need my son to know that if you put that dope in you, you're going to love it so much that you ain't going to be able to quit.
Yeah, I mean, I've explained. My daughter knows all about my past and everything. I've been completely honest with her because she would ask me, where did you go and why weren't you here for me? And I had to tell her. I mean, I couldn't lie to her. I wasn't going to make up some story like, oh, mom was sick. She was getting help. I wasn't getting help. I was getting high.
That's some truth bombs.
Yeah. I mean, I cared more about a dope sack than I did the human beings that I created. And I know there's a lot of moms out there that have done the same thing and have said the same thing. You know, us moms who have been in addiction and we've left our kids, that is the most hurtful thing that we have ever done to ourselves, is to give up the one thing that would love us unconditionally, no matter what.
What a concept.
But luckily, it's a miracle that I still get to be in my kid's life.
So what is your pathway to recovery that you do?
I work 12-step program.
12-step program?
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
I found Alcoholics Anonymous while I was in ACC. And so I just continued to do that.
Yeah. And that gave you back the relationship with your kids, your mom. What's that like now?
My mom is sick, so I just moved her in with me and Sean. So
recovery has positioned you to be the caretaker for the woman who created you.
Right.
That's a full circle. That's prison to purpose, man.
It's allowed me this whole, working the 12 steps and being in recovery, helping other people has given me back tenfold what I lost.
Yeah.
And I lost everything.
Yeah.
I didn't have shit.
Yeah.
Nothing to my name.
What do you got now, though?
I got everything that I've ever wanted. House, job, car, family, kids, married.
Yeah.
I got it all now.
That's awesome, Jackie. Everything that addiction took from you when you were chasing that feeling, that void you were trying to fill, God gave you back through a process of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what's your favorite thing about being in recovery today?
That I get to live free. I'm not in a mental prison anymore. And I'm not fighting these demons that,
Yeah.
I've let them all go and I'm finally free just to live life, because I wasn't living life. I was surviving life.
Yeah.
And now I can live it. And it sucks that I had to wait until I was like 30 years old to know how great life could be. But I mean, I like to use my experiences to help others. And I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm not ashamed of anything that's happened to me. I don't have hatred towards anybody who ever did me wrong. I've forgiven the people who hurt me. And I've also forgiven myself. So now I can truly live free.
Yeah. I'm happy for you, man. That's awesome. So I want to ask you, right, because there's a lot of women watching the show that have probably been through similar experiences. There's a lot of moms who gave up their kids like you. There's a lot of people who are just now coming home from prison. And so what would you say to them, the listeners? This is your chance to carry whatever that message is that you would say to the newcomer or the person scared.
Reach out. Ask for help. I mean, I can blast my business all on your podcast. I'll give my number. I'll give my email address. You can contact me any way. You can contact me on Facebook. Look me up. Jimmy and I are friends. I'd be happy to help you, be a person to walk with you on your journey, because I took a village around me to walk my journey. Mm-hmm. And so I know it takes a village for other people, but I think that at first initial, hey man, I'm struggling, or hey, can you help me, is, just ask, reach out to somebody.
Yeah, it's worth it. You're worth saving. You're worth living.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing. Like, your whole story is very inspirational. Like, number one, I think you lived through some things that would destroy most normal people. Mm-hmm. And so you've got a resiliency that is just beautiful. And it's very alluring. Like, people are going to want to hear that. They're going to want to see that. And if you can do it, hopefully it inspires other women that they can do it too, Jackie. And, hearing what you went through with jail and prison and then coming home and finding 7 years of recovery, you're a miracle. Mm-hmm. And it's very inspirational. So I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, please go subscribe to our YouTube, Prison to Purpose. You can find us on TikTok, Prison to Purpose. You can find my book, From Prison to Purpose, on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. Make sure you get the one written by Jimmy McGill and not a knockoff artist. And most importantly, if you're in Arkansas and you're trying to get a podcast up and running, you're going to want to reach out to American Business Engine. My guy, Ty King, is my producer of this podcast, and he is amazing. You can email Ty King at TIKING@AmericanBusinessEngine.com. And I want to thank John Shinhauser for sponsoring this podcast, helping us pay for Ty and the production of this. If you're anywhere in the country and you need recovery housing, detox, you need treatment, John can help you get placed in any treatment that you're in any state. Just give him a call at 804-241-9424. I also want to thank Next Step Recovery Housing, the National Peer Recovery Alliance, and Safe Haven Ministries for allowing us this spot at the studio. Thanks, you guys, and hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to From Prison to Purpose with Jimmy McGill. Please subscribe on any of the major podcasting platforms and on YouTube at Prison to Purpose. This podcast is produced by Ty King with American Business Engine and executive producer Jimmy McGill. For more information, visit us at jimmymcgill.org.